Good afternoon and welcome to today's virtual meeting hosted by the Harris County Department of Economic Equity and Opportunity. I'm Rodney Ellis, one of the Harris County Commissioners. The primary goal of today's meeting is to ensure that all Harris County contractors and vendors receive a fair shot at receiving contracts. As you know, a June 2020 disparity study, which was initiated out of my office, found that only 9.1% of Harris County contract dollars are going to minority and women-owned businesses. It's time to level the playing field. Being more transparent and inclusive requires that more businesses know how to navigate the county's procurement process. Today, you will learn how to do business with Harris County, what certifications are needed, how to complete WBE bid documents, and much more. Thank you again for being here. Harris County looks forward.
Garcia, County Commissioner, Precinct 2. First, let me just say Happy New Year to you and your families. May 2022 be a safe, healthy, and prosperous new year for you and your families. To that end, I'm very excited about the Department of Economic Equity and Opportunity and their work to grow the number of minority women business enterprises that are doing business with Harris County. You know, in 2021, 17 million of my budget dollars were spent with minority women business enterprises. However, I think it's actually over 50% was actually spent with Precinct 2 based businesses. And obviously, we want to make sure that everyone, no matter how big or small you may be, that in Harris County, you have a true equitable opportunity at doing business with Harris County. That's why I'm very excited about their work. So I hope that you will find today's workshop informative and productive, and that you recognize our efforts to grow our economy here in Harris County. When more businesses can participate, it obviously gets better for so many more. And then just as an aside, I will ask you, that just as the many businesses that gave me an opportunity when I was growing up, working at my dad's gas station, in his automotive repair shop, or at James Coney Island, or as a construction worker, or as a lawn boy at a very affluent River Oaks home. Make sure that you're thinking about creating opportunity for area youth to have a ground floor opportunity to have experiences, opportunities, and growth in the vision for their lives. That's how we will change Harris County for the better into the future. Thank you very much, and stay tuned.
Sorry about the technical difficulties there at the beginning. Thank you for sticking with us. Next up is going to be Paige McGinnis from Purchasing. Let me get her up. Just bear with me one moment. Having some technical difficulties getting Paige to come up. Paige, can you share your video, please? Paige, are you there?
Yes, I'm having technical difficulties. Give me 1 second.
No worries. we go.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, can y'all hear me okay? Awesome. Okay, I just want to quickly go over real quick how to do business with Harris County as the purchasing department procures all countywide projects. And we work in conjunction with the DEEO office to ensure minority vendors are contacted and have available opportunity and options on solicitations at Harris County. Dwight Dopsoff is the Harris County purchasing agent. And all of our procurement opportunities, especially projects $50,000 and over, are located online. Our purchasing department now utilizes Bonfire, which is an online bidding platform. So you're able to register your company and review current projects from your home, from your office, from wherever is feasible for you. Even if you're out traveling, you can now look at our solicitation opportunities online. You will be able to also receive bids and proposals this way, submit your information this way with very easy access. Our available documents are on our website, and I provided the link below, which this will also be included with the recorded meeting minutes that will be sent out to you. So just so you know as well, Harris County, we post all of our new projects online that are $50,000 and over every Friday, and they're also posted in the Houston Chronicle as well. For supplier information, we also use Bonfire online to manage our suppliers and, of course, again, to distribute and receive bids and proposals. So registration's currently open and it's free of charge. You will receive an automatic email notification of project opportunities once you're registered, and it's going to be based on the NIGP code selection. So please ensure when you are registering your business through Bonfire that you select and really look at those NIGP codes so we can make sure the codes that hit your business's needs are sent to you directly so you can get those email notifications every week. So just please ensure to visit the Harris County Bonfire portal below. Again, here's the link. There's no cost to register. All of our opportunities are out there for you. As well, take a look at the purchasing website. We have our contact list up there and any information you may need on how to do work with Harris County Purchasing. Thank you.
Thanks, Paige. That was very helpful. Next, we will hear about procurement activities from Angela Murray from engineering, followed by Imelda Diaz from flood control, and lastly, Bernard Willingham from Harris County Toll Road.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I will attempt to keep this fairly brief. My name is Angela Murray. I'm the Senior Director of Administration for the Harris County Engineering Department, who is now led by Dr. Milton Rahman as the county engineer. Next slide, please. Just to briefly go over some of the county engineer primary focus areas, investing in our people, that's the staff, the folks that help us push these projects out to the community, improving customer service, focusing on our core values, and efficient capital project management. Again, those are the county engineer's primary focus areas and what drives our projects. Next slide, please. So just to quickly run through our service areas, just to kind of get a familiarization with what some of the services that our department provides. On the planning and development side, plan review, permitting mainly, floodplain management, environmental services, wastewater permits, household hazardous waste, and transportation planning. And then on the engineering and project delivery side, which is the bulk and the core of what we do here in engineering, we have project delivery. We have capital project management, we have construction management, emergency design and repair, facility maintenance, disaster recovery, architecture design, landscape architecture, and real property and survey. Next slide, please. Just to briefly mention some of the engineering clients and partners that we work with. Our primary clients are, of course, the county judge, the county commissioners, and numerous various county departments that we work with. We also work with a multitude of partners, which include the City of Houston, Metro, Flood Control District, Harris Health, East Aldine Management, Children's Assessment Center, and Community Services and Corrections, just to name a few. Next slide, please. To quickly go over some of the key initiatives and programs that our department is currently working on, of course, regional flood mitigation, the MWBE program, regional mobility, permitting and customer service, county transportation plan, and resiliency and green infrastructure. Next slide, please. So this slide is just meant to give you an idea of the magnitude of the projects that we are currently carrying, as well as the value of the portfolio. So as you can see, we currently have 314 mobility projects. Again, these are mobility projects only associated with transportation, and it's an estimated value of $1 billion. So as you can see, folks, the work is here, and we're ready to get things pushed out the door. Next slide, please. So in terms of the focus on the MWBE program, I just would like to quickly go through. So in collaboration with Commissioners Court and the newly adopted program, the engineering department seeks to work with the Department of Economic Equity and Opportunity, and we are all working together to promote the inclusion of a diverse county vendor network. We regularly work with the DEEO to establish the project-specific goals related to prime contractor utilization of the MWBE subs. And as you can see here, the guiding principles of the DEEO, which is to address institutional barriers within the county, keep it simple, don't overcomplicate it, be accountable and transparent, and then also learn from other programs and be open to new ideas. Next slide, please. Again, so the MWBE program, these are some of the areas in which the engineering department seeks to help continue to promote outreach and help bridge the gap. Outreach, working with MWBE vendors and the public. On the data collection side, we are seeking internally to track the MWBE utilization and participation so that we understand where those gaps are and how we can do more outreach to help bridge the gaps. Goal setting, of course, we are working with the DEO, as mentioned previously, to set contract-specific goals to increase the participation, and as well as compliance, assisting with the verification that vendors are meeting those contractual goals and reporting the MWBE utilization. Next slide, please. In terms of the actions that the engineering department would like to embark on to help increase the outreach, we would like to work on individualization, which is developing a plan that's focused on individual assistance to some of the vendors that are seeking that extra help. Education, host training to vendors on how to do business with the county, such as the event that you're attending today. Promotion, working with the purchasing office and the DEO to magnify the county MWBE program, getting the word out there and spreading the word on what opportunities are out there and available. And lastly, connection, increasing the networking opportunities for MWBEs and primes, which historically has been a challenge for subcontractors to get connected to primes. Next slide, please. So this slide identifies our professional services registry. This is a registry that we maintain to pre-qualify architects and engineers, as well as surveyors, to do business with the county. So if you're seeking to do business with the county and you're a professional service firm or a firm providing professional service, I encourage you to reach out. Visit the link here that you see and fill out your standard Form 330, and also provide all your verification paperwork as well as your proof of compliance, and we'll get you registered within the system. And that way, once you are registered, you are pre-qualified as a professional service firm. Next slide, please. Just to briefly go over some of the upcoming opportunities that we have out here currently, you can see that we have several RFQs for drainage improvement projects throughout the county, as well as the next slide, please. We also have several smaller contracts, including maintenance of sidewalks. We have some parking space addition projects that are coming up. So I would encourage you all to, as Paige mentioned before, register with Bonfire. It's free. Once you're registered, you can set your settings to receive notifications once these projects are coming out, and stay abreast of what's coming out of the county. Again, as I mentioned, there are a lot of projects going on. So thank you all for listening, and I'll take any questions. Rena, you're muted if you're speaking.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. I am now pulling up Imelda's presentation. Give me just one moment.
While he pulls that up, I just want to remind everyone that this presentation is being recorded, and we'll send out the slide decks as soon as the event is over. Thanks.
So I'm with the Harris County Flood Control.
Oh, I'm sorry. Pulled up the wrong one.
Okay.
Can you see it now?
Yes, but I see all the notes too.
Yeah, let me fix that.
Okay.
Is it full screen?
Yes, thank you. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Imelda Diaz, and I am with the Harris County Flood Control District. Next slide, please. The Harris County Flood Control District is a special purpose district created by the Texas State Legislature back in 1937. While we are a separate entity from Harris County per se, we have the same board of directors in Harris County Commissioners Court, and as such are deeply embedded such that we are effectively the same. But it is important to understand there is a difference. The Flood Control District owns and maintains more than 2,500 miles of channel across the county, plus several thousand acres of stormwater detention basins. Our mission is to provide flood damage reduction projects that work with appropriate regard for community and natural values. Next slide, please. Prior to Hurricane Harvey, our annual CIP was about $60 million. And in 2018, on the one-year anniversary of Hurricane Harvey, Harris County voters approved a $2.5 billion bond election. That bond program consists of a $5 billion portfolio of projects, and we continue to pursue federal funds to supplement the funding approved by voters to build the projects over the next 5 to 10 years. With the help of our county leadership, we also created the Flood Resiliency Trust so that our projects will be completed with an equitable way. At present, the district is working on all active projects and nothing is currently on hold because of funding. As a matter of fact, as you can see on this list here, within the next 12 months, we are scheduled to bid approximately $162 million worth of construction projects. The list on this slide is available on our website. Next slide. Some of you may have also heard that FEMA has obligated over $247 million for additional sediment removal projects in 8 watersheds. The watersheds are listed on this slide. Next slide, please. And here's a timeline for this program. We are now in design and working with several engineering firms to prepare construction packages for the program. We had a little schedule setback, but the first group of projects are expected to advertise sometime within the third quarter of 2023. Next slide, please. As we ramp up our broad program, we're turning a $60 million per year organization into more like $500 million per year. We historically relied on private engineering firms to perform our design. And as you may have imagined, it has greatly expanded with the bond program. This is the list of the most recent bond projects to receive court authorization to proceed, and we will now begin the PR or the design phase. Therefore, we're going to be requesting new consultants. These projects will originate in the engineering division. The projects on the table on the right side are for federal projects that will require requests for proposals or qualifications from interested firms. Because I only have a few minutes today, I can't go into specific project details, but you can check out this link on our website again and view information on these projects and all other active projects. Next slide, please. HCFCD is committed to equal opportunity, and we're always looking to engage with new firms, particularly in light of Harris County Commissioners Court recent creation of a true MWBE program. The easiest way to get started with us is quite simply to submit your qualifications and become a part of our registry. This is a separate registry from the county or from HECTRA. Information can be found at our website, and I have the link on this slide. It is a relatively painless process, and many of you are probably already listed on our registry by way of a standard SF 330 forms. I also encourage you to consider scheduling a courtesy visit with us whenever you can, so you can meet with one of us, myself, or even our deputy executive, our executive director or others at Flood Control. We will be happy to walk you through the details, explain the different flavors of procurement that we utilize, and also let you know about other, perhaps an informal mentorship program that we have been trying to set up, where we help to pair up new firms not familiar with our projects with more experienced firms to help them learn on the job about the sort of work that we do. So again, please visit our website or reach out to us for one of these courtesy visits, or find out about any other information that I've presented here today. And with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Thank you so much. Now I'm going to pull up Bernard Willingham's presentation from, one second. One I pulled up before.
I think the notes are visible.
Yes, one second. Just gotta. How's that?
Great. Well, first of all, good afternoon. My name is Bernard Willingham, the Assistant Director of Procurement for the Toll Road Authority. It is my pleasure to see all of you. We certainly appreciate your interest both in Harris County and the Toll Road Authority. As others have stated, HECTRA is open, ready, and actively pursuing MWBE businesses for participation on HECTRA contracts. We work very closely with DEO to execute the policies that they've developed. Our Executive Director, Robert Trevino, has made it very clear to each and every division in our organization that MWBE participation is a priority. We're seeing that commitment in every stage of our procurements. Currently, we have a preliminary planning RFQ involving the Hardy Toll Road connector between Interstates 10 and 610 north of downtown. The goal for this preliminary planning RFQ is 15% MWBE participation. Statements of qualifications will be accepted through April 4th, 2022. If you're interested in pursuing this opportunity, please register on the county's bonfire portal that some of the other folks have mentioned here this afternoon. We're also actively seeking your ideas on community engagement and environmental sustainability. We're studying the role of solar energy in our infrastructure, how we can be in tune with our surrounding environment, and including the reduction of noise on our roads and provisions for electric-powered vehicles. So as you can see, it's a very exciting time at HECTRA. In the future, we're planning HECTRA-specific events, and we'll keep you informed via the portal. Thanks again for your interest in Harris County. I'd like to invite, if you can move the slide to the very last slide.
Oh, sorry. How's that?
Yeah, just in the essence of time, and just try to kind of sum up what's on those slides. But I want to, if you're at MWBE and you're seeking to do business with the county, but especially HECTRA, there's a couple of things that I want you to be in mind of. First of all, be prepared to compete. We have an MWBE program. It's going to be a great, the county's MWBE program is going to be great. It's going to be a model for this region. But it's going to be important to understand that you are going to have to compete. And to start that off is, what is your value? What is your value to the organization? What do you know about the county departments? In particular, what do you know about HECTRA? Is HECTRA presently procuring your good or service? That's important to know. That's important to understand. Who's responsible for that good or service that you wish to provide? What problems are they experiencing? And more importantly, what solutions do your products and services provide to eliminate or overcome those problems? Remember, HECTRA's program centers around heavy construction, bridges, underpasses, right? So there's going to be issues regarding bonding and insurance. Have an answer for that. We're also automating our toll roads, going to all electronic tolling. How do your goods and services help us to accomplish that? If you can answer those questions, I guarantee there's plenty of room on HECTRA contracts for your participation. Again, thank you all very much for your time, and I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Transition to Colette. I just want to thank all of our speakers. We appreciate your partnership in making the MWB program a success. Our next speaker is the subject matter expert related to MWB programs. Colette has performed many disparity studies across the country, including Harris counties. I won't take up too much time introducing her, as I know she has a lot of great information to share. So Colette, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hopefully you can all hear me. Rennie, can you tee up my slides and you're going to be my human clicker?
Yes, ma'am. Here it is. Everyone see it?
Not quite yet.
Oh, it should be
There we
up.
go. Oh, there we go. Okay. Just a little bit of a delay here, I think, perhaps.
No.
So good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for coming and for your attention. And hopefully you will find all this information to be useful. I will pause at the end of each one of the small segments and take questions. I'm not sure I can actually get the Q&A to open up there for me, Derek. It just gives me a little spinning button. So you might have to read me the questions if there are any. But let's go to our first slide, please. So this is an overview of the presentation, and again, this will all be posted, but you can see the basic subtopics that I'm going to cover today. And again, I will pause after each one of these to see if anyone has any questions. You can also hold your questions to the end, whatever you're most comfortable with. Next slide, please. So these are the new Harris County MWBE program policy statements and objectives. And as you may have guessed, if you haven't seen this already, critical objective for the county is to ensure non-discrimination in the award and operation of its contracts, as well as create a level playing field, with some of the previous speakers, of course, had mentioned. It's very important from a legal standpoint that the MWBE program is narrowly tailored to the market for Harris County contracts, and that only firms that meet the eligibility requirements and are properly certified are permitted to participate in the program. We certainly hope to remove barriers to the participation of MWBs in all aspects of county contracts, both as prime contractors and subcontractors, as well as assist firms to be able to compete successfully outside of the program. And based on the disparity study, which I'll get to in just a second, the county adopted an overall annual aspirational goal of 30% of its overall eligible spend to go to minority and women-owned firms. Next slide, please. Just a brief overview about what the legal standards are. I am a lawyer, and these programs really do have to meet very stringent legal requirements. So it's important that people have at least a basic understanding of what that means. Certainly the most important thing to know is that race and gender conscious programs, excuse me, government programs anyway, are subject to the highest level of judicial review. This is called strict constitutional scrutiny. And the burden is in fact on the agency to come forward with evidence that supports its need to use the judicially highly disfavored use of race in government decision making. The strict scrutiny framework has two prongs. Lawyers like that word, I'm not sure why, but we do. And first is that agencies must establish that they have a strong basis in evidence that discrimination continues to infect their market and that they need to use race and gender conscious remedies in order to remedy that discrimination. The second prong is that any remedy adopted must be narrowly tailored, that's the magic word phrase, to the evidence that was presented in the disparity study. So all the groups that you want to include must suffer discrimination in your market area. Goals must be tailored to the actual availability of MWBEs, and your program must be flexible. There cannot be quotas or set-asides, and firms that are not able to meet the goals but demonstrate their good faith efforts to do so must continue to be eligible for contract award. Next slide, please. So turning to the Harris County Disparity Study, you can see here what we found, and the study is available on the county's website. We found large and significant disparities between the availability of minority and women firms in the county's market area and the county's utilization of those firms. And this is the type of evidence that the courts really have looked to. We also found that there are large and significant disparities throughout the overall Houston economy, so that's outside of Harris County's own contracting behavior, and that minority and women entrepreneurs reported that they still experience negative perceptions about their competency. They are stereotyped. They are excluded from important business networks and relationships, and they do not have equal access to both financial credit and contracts. And overall, we found that the availability in Harris County's marketplace was approximately 28.4%. Next slide, please. So these were our recommendations, and we divided them into two types. The first are so-called race and gender neutral measures that assist all firms, especially small firms, disadvantaged firms, to do business with the county. And you see there the elements that we had. I won't belabor these. Certainly one thing that has happened is that the department, the DEEO, has been created. The county is deep into implementing its electronic data collection system and working on these other areas. We also recommended that the county adopt an actual MWBE program with goals, and that it used the study to set those goals, both the overall annual aspirational goal as well as goals on a contract by contract basis, and that narrowly tailored eligibility standards be imposed. We certainly found that there was ample evidence to include all racial and ethnic groups and white women in the program, but we also want to be flexible. And so firms that have a significant local business presence in the county market area, even if they're not headquartered there, could be eligible to participate. Next slide, please. We certainly recommended strong and effective compliance monitoring policies and procedures. This is just critical to running a good program. Recommended a pilot mentor-protege program. So I was interested to hear that some of the other departments are making some steps in that direction. And then provide training, such as this seminar today for county staff and vendors. And then last but not least, developing performance standards and a timetable for review of the program. Next slide, please. Excuse me. I'm going to stop there and see, Derek, I can't get Q&A to load. Do we have any questions?
I don't mind reading some of the questions off. Let me get rid of the slides and put you up there. All right. First question, how do we look at bids for under $50,000?
My understanding is that bids for under 50,000 are reviewed for basic compliance, but bids under 50,000 will not be reviewed for contract goals. There just simply is not enough information, and there's not enough work for people to do to subdivide it up into goals. But I think you got one slide ahead of me here. We didn't go over slide 8.
Oh, would you like me to pull it back up?
Yeah, that's fine. Mostly because I don't want to get lost in my own slides.
Ah, okay. Apologies, I'm pulling it up right now.
No problem. Any other questions?
No. Slide 8.
Okay. So really, what I wanted to know was, are there any other questions up through what we presented so far?
Oh, apologies. I got ahead of myself.
No? All right. Well, then we'll keep going. Certainly don't want to hold people any longer. You're very kind to give us this much time. Let's spend a minute talking about who is eligible to be considered for meeting contract goals in the program. A firm must be certified at the time of bid or proposal submission by one of the following agencies that Harris County is going to recognize, and you see there are various certifications. So there's the City of Houston program. As a minority or woman-owned business, note SBE is not part of this certification list. If you are a disadvantaged business enterprise certified through the US DOT program by any of the Texas agencies, that also will count. If you are a historically underutilized business certified by the state, that is acceptable, as well as if you are what's called an 8A firm. This is a designation that comes from the U.S. Small Business Administration. So any one of those would be acceptable to be used to meet the contract goal. You must also have a location in the county's market area, which you see there is Harris, Fort Bend, Montgomery, Rosario, or Galveston, or you can establish a local business presence through 3 contracts in the area in the last 3 years. Next slide, please. Again, as we mentioned just a minute ago, if your contract is under $50,000, it's not going to be reviewed for goal setting. That just is not large enough for there to be any real ability for anybody to meet goals. However, my understanding is that the county will be doing outreach for those smaller contracts. And again, not to beat a dead horse here, but certainly do go and get yourself registered with the county so that you can find out about all of those opportunities. I do want to stress there's no such thing as standard goals. Goals are going to be set on a contract by contract basis, and I'm going to get to that in a second. And then you see there contracts that are exempted. Next slide, please. So turning now to exactly how the county is going to set contract goals. They're going to start with the availability of MWBEs from the disparity study, and make sure there are at least 3 certified MBEs for each scope of work in the entire contract so that it doesn't operate as some kind of a quota. They'll weight the dollar value of the scope, and then they'll also take a look at the complexity and duration of the contract, how much progress the county has made towards utilizing MWBEs to date, and any other relevant factors so that the goals are in fact narrowly tailored. And I think, as has been mentioned previously, the goals will be set by DEO, but in consultation with purchasing and the relevant user department. Next slide, please. The bidder must either, or proposer, just we're going to say bidder because it's shorter, it must either meet the goal at the time established in the solicitation documents, or it must establish its good faith efforts to do so. So this is an important point. If you are a bidder, you will not be able to go back later and change your goal submission or supplement your good faith efforts. This all has to be turned in at the time established in the solicitation. So what does good faith efforts mean? It means steps that by their direction and intensity are those which would be useful to actually achieve the goal. And certainly you should provide any information that you think someone would want to know about the outreach that you did in order to meet the goal as part of the good faith efforts submission. In the bid documents, the standards are spelled out in great detail. I didn't want to go into too much here, but you can certainly see them in the manual, which is on the website. There's also a checklist to assist you in documenting your good faith efforts. If the county determines that a bidder did not make good faith efforts, it is possible to appeal that to a reconsideration official that is appointed by the county. And again, all the details are provided on the documents in the web. For those of you that are familiar with the US DOT DBE program, this should all sound, again, familiar to you, as well as those of you that may do work for City of Houston contracts. This is all also pretty similar to what they do. Next slide, please. Any questions on contract goals? No? Okay, then we'll keep going. And people may, of course, ask them at the end. So how will participation be counted towards meeting the contract goals? The county is going to count the entire amount of the work that is performed by the MWBE's own forces, and that includes purchasing necessary materials and supplies, so long as they are not purchased or leased from the prime contractor. But if the MWBE is performing, I don't know, let's say plumbing, that purchasing the materials and supplies would be counted towards the goal, so long as they're not buying them from the prime. MWBs that are going to perform on the project as the prime contractor or consultant may count all the work they self-perform. This is in conformance with the DBE program, as well as I think sort of the nationally accepted best practice at this point. So it's not just a subcontracting program, and the goals are not just for subcontracting. The goals are set on the entire amount of the project, and an MWBE prime can count its own self-performance. The county will also count reasonable fees or commissions, so long as the services that are provided are bona fide. So let's say that you find a minority insurance agent, that fee could be counted as well. If the MWBE is a manufacturer or a regular dealer, the county will count 100%, but if they are a supplier, it's only going to count 60% of those dollars towards meeting the contract goal. And this again conforms with the federal approach in the DBE program. Next slide, please. Any work that gets subcontracted to a non-MWBE does not count towards the goal. And the county will be looking at each tier of subcontracting to make sure that only dollars that are spent with certified firms are counted towards the goal. Likewise, dollars are only counted once they're paid. And the firm must be certified in the applicable industry code for which the work is being sought to be credited. So for example, we are a law and consulting firm and we are certified, but if you see me as a concrete supplier, that's a real problem and you should not count that. If a firm is no longer certified, but it was removed for reasons other than fraud, then the prime contractor can continue to count that firm for the rest of the duration of the contract. And finally, there are special rules for trucking contracts, and I'm not going to go into them unless someone really has a question about it. It follows the federal approach. Do you have trucks? How many trucks? Are they owner operators? It's actually quite complicated, but we are following the federal approach, and I'm happy to talk about that if somebody wants to. Next slide, please. So let me stop there on counting. Any questions on that one? No? All right, I'll keep going. Turning now to commercially useful function. A minority or woman-owned firm must be performing a commercially useful function called a CUF usually in order to be counted towards the goal. So even if the firm is properly certified, even if it's for the right NAICS code, even if they were submitted as part of the utilization plan, if they are not performing a commercially useful function on this project, then their dollars will not be counted. And there is a pretty lengthy definition and discussion of CUF policies in Harris County's policy and the manual, so you can take a look at that for the specifics. We follow very closely along with the federal approach, so for those of you that understand that, you'll get this. But the MBE must be responsible for negotiating the price, if that's applicable, determining the quality and the quantity, and ordering the materials and installing and paying for the material itself. This is really designed to prevent firms acting as just pass-throughs, or sometimes those are called fronts, but that can have more than one meaning. And certainly following sort of the national approach, the certified firm must perform at least 30% of the work with its own forces, or if there's a different normal standard industry practice, that's okay. But the assumption is that if the certified firm is performing less than 30%, that it is not performing a CUF. And to evaluate whether the firm is performing a CUF, DEO will evaluate how much work is subcontracted, whether the amount of dollars seems to be commensurate with the work that's going to be performed, industry practices. They'll also look at similar types of work or transactions that do not have MWB participation, and any other relevant factors to determine whether, in fact, a CUF is going to be performed. Next slide, please. DEO will perform both desk reviews and site visits. So do know that there will be people, if you are a construction company, that are going to come out to your site and make sure that your certified firms are performing CUFs. If DEO determines that the MWB is not performing a CUF, the contractor will have an opportunity to rebut that, but then DEO's decision on that will be final. If a prime contractor is denied gold credit because the proposed firm did not perform a CUF, then the contractor will be required to make good faith efforts to substitute with another MWBE to meet the contract goal. Next slide, please. Any questions on commercially useful function? All right, let's keep going to utilization plans. I think I mentioned this. Oh, yes, please.
Okay, so there's quite a few questions, not necessarily on CUFs, but
okay.
I think it's topics that you've covered, so I'm gonna go
okay,
back.
Yeah, please.
I know there's a couple that are asking again what certifications we take and what steps they should take. Who do they need to contact to get certified?
Sure. The certifications that the county will accept are the City of Houston, the State of Texas Hub, the WBE certification through the Texas Unified Certification Program, and there are various agencies that are signatories to that, as well as the Small Business Administration, U.S. Small Business Administration's 8A program. To get certified, you could do one of two things. I suppose you could contact DEO, and they can put you in touch with these various agencies, or you can just skip that step and go directly to those websites. The information should be there. And if you have any issues or concerns, please do contact DEO or one of the agencies that conducts those certifications.
Thank you for that. I just want to add on that once firms are certified in those areas and with those organizations, then they're automatically in Harris County's database. So you don't have to re-register with us.
Right.
Next.
Although, Derek, let me ask you this, though. They do still have to go register in Bonfire, correct? They'll be in diversity management, but not in Bonfire.
Correct. So everyone has to register with Bonfire to work at Harris County at all. But if they receive their MBE from City of Houston, for example, they will automatically come into our system. They don't have to let us know that they're now MBE certified.
Perfect. Good. One less thing for a small firm to do.
The next question is, has each portion of the county, and they broke down a couple of the departments, established the same minority business objectives? What are they? And many procurements for other entities establish a goal of 24%, for example.
Well, let me go back to the purpose of narrowly tailored and therefore legally defensible contract goals. They really are driven by the scope of the project. Now, it may certainly turn out that the toll authority and engineering may have goals that look pretty similar on similar projects. I frankly would expect that, but they're not department goals. They're contract by contract goals, which is what the federal courts require in order to meet that strict constitutional test that we talked about in the beginning. Again, there are no standard goals. The courts just do not accept that. Goals have to be narrowly tailored. But the county does have an overall aspirational target for all of its eligible spend, all grouped together, of 30% for the year.
Okay. We have a non-local DBE who would like to know whether we have a formal local bidder preference program, and also will we have MWBE goals for projects that do not include federal funding.
Let's take the second one first. The MWB program that we've been discussing today, and I apologize if that wasn't clear from the very beginning when we started, is for Harris County's locally funded contracts. Federally assisted projects have their own structure and programs that any recipient, that's Harris County or anyone, is required to follow. So what we've been discussing today is the MWBE program for the local, locally funded contracts. And what was the first part of the question again, Derek?
Oh, this was the non-local DBE firm, and they're saying, is there a formal local bidder preference program?
Oh, right, thank you. Not to the best of my knowledge, but perhaps someone from purchasing can answer that, because that's really kind of outside the scope of the MWBE program.
I believe Paige already dropped off, but I'm with
okay.
You, having knowledge of a local preference program.
Yeah, not as far as we know. We can check on that, but nobody's said that to me in 3 years, so it makes me think it isn't happening.
And the last one for this section, will Harris County have its own certification program?
Well, certainly not at the moment. And as we've just been talking about, it's going to accept these other certifications. I'm not really here to speculate about something that might be happening off in the future sometime, but I don't think there's any thought at the moment about doing that. Certification is expensive. It's extremely resource intensive to do correctly. And we also don't want to burden minority and women firms with going from agency to agency to agency to get themselves certified. So I don't think there's any thought about it in the near term, but you know, who knows, perhaps in the future that might turn out to be something that would be of value.
Perfect. I'll let you continue and we'll catch up.
Okay, all right, well, good. So this pretty simple part, MWBE utilization plans, as we've mentioned, they are due at the time specified in the solicitation. The bidder must either commit to meet the goal or document its good faith efforts to have done so. And the obligation to make good faith efforts to meet the goal continues throughout the life of the contract. So if a bidder does see opportunities down the road, either through some type of change or other opportunities opening up, you do have a continuing duty to make good faith efforts to meet the goal if you could not do it at the time of bid submission. You must, in detail, describe the proposed participation of both MBEs, WBEs, and non-certified firms. And I really want to stress, and non-certified firms. This is just critical in terms of monitoring the program. So if you just describe what the MWBs are doing and drop off the other portion, your bid will not be responsive and it will be rejected. If you're going to use MWBs as subcontractors to meet the goal, you will need to include the letter of intent at the time specified in the solicitation. Next slide, please. Well, that's one little subtopic. Let me stop there. But maybe I'll go on for one more, and that'll give people some time to type, should they actually have any questions about that. So up until now, we've been talking about setting the goals, meeting the goals at bid submission. But now I want to turn to post-award compliance. This is a critical element of a good program because up until now, everybody's been talking about what they're going to do, but it's important that they be held accountable for that during contract performance. So DEO will be performing contract performance activities to monitor utilization, compliance with things like site visits and cuff reviews. They will be monitoring prompt payment of primes to subs and any payments that are made to MWBEs. DEO will work with the user departments to ensure compliance, and it does have the authority to recommend withholding progress payments for firms that failed to comply. If there are change orders, which of course are client-driven, they will be reviewed by DEO for any impact on meeting the contract goal, and it is possible that the goal may need to be recalculated if the scope change affects the MWBE's participation. Could go down, could go up. It just becomes a mathematical issue. If a contractor wants to make a change to a utilization plan, and then there are lots of reasons why that might happen, the contractor must have prior DEO approval. This is not a act now and ask for forgiveness later approach. You really do have to get the prior written approval of DEO to make a change to your utilization plan. And that includes adding or dropping or substantially reducing an MWBE's participation, and you will need to establish good cause to DEO's satisfaction. And the contractor must also give notice to the MWBE about any change in the utilization plan. Next slide, please. Let me stop there for a second, see if we got any more questions in.
Yes, ma'am. So there's a couple of questions of people asking about specific types of projects. For example, one says, do many of your projects require work change management consulting? I guess they're trying to figure out the best way to know if they have the services that we need.
Well, I'm not the person really probably to ask about that, but as the young lady from purchasing was talking about, certainly go on to their website, see what opportunities are available, and introduce yourself to those departments so that you can find out about what types of services the county might need. I'd also urge you, if you would mostly be performing in some type of subconsultant or subcontractor role, to attend the pre-bid or pre-proposal conferences that the county has so that you can network with other firms, get more information about the projects, and see how you might be able to fit in.
Okay, the next question is still kind of on purchasing. We can kind of guide it though. The question is, my business is currently in Bonfire. Do I need to register as a vendor? I think it's kind of like one of those things where multiple entities use Bonfire. And so we've put the link for Bonfire in the system. And I think it's just best to be safe than sorry to register with Harris County Bonfire.
Yes, I would certainly urge you to make sure to register specifically with every agency that you're interested in. Our firm does work all over the country, and we are registered on so many sites. I don't even know. I have somebody else that takes care of that, mercifully. But I certainly hear that sometimes things get lost. So if it's important to you, I would take the time to do that.
Okay, I don't remember if you covered this. I think you have. Will the program capture MWB participation on lower tier levels?
Yes, that's a short answer. Yes, and count it. So we'll capture it and count it.
There's a question about what's the philosophy, I guess? How do you conduct a disparity study?
Oh, well, how much time do people have? I would urge you, if you really are interested in knowing how disparity studies are conducted and how we did this one for Harris County, you can look at two things for sure. One is to go to the actual study, and we do have a lengthy explanation in there, for example, about how we collected and analyzed all the contract records or the anecdotal information or whatever. And there was a PowerPoint on the disparity study that we presented to the commissioners. I don't know, Derek, if that is still up on the site because this predates the creation of DEEO, but you and I can talk about that. And if it's not on your site, I can be sure to get it to you and we can put it up there. And that's a much more accessible, quick explanation of how the study was conducted than the actual document itself. But the document itself will answer, I think, any questions anyone has about how the disparity study was conducted.
And the document is on our website, not necessarily that PowerPoint, but we can definitely look into that.
Yeah, because it was before there was any DEEO.
Right. Another easy one, establishing a local presence requirement. The question reads, I assume this can be if you are listed on a contract as a subconsultant, or do you have to be a prime?
No, subconsulting is just fine. You did work.
Does it have to be a Harris County contract?
No, you just need to show us that you have 3 contracts, subcontracts or prime contracts that were to be performed in the market area within, I believe, is it the last year we said?
3 years.
That's right.
Last 3 years.
Last three years. Yeah, so we've made it pretty easy.
I found this interesting. How does price factor in regarding good faith efforts?
Oh, that is a very good question. Well, I will tell you what the federal regs say, and of course those have been upheld by every single court that has considered a challenge, and is the standard for best practice against which we benchmark ourselves. Price is not determinative, so long as such price is not unreasonable. Now, that certainly does involve a judgment call. And that can look at a lot of factors. I mean, for example, how large is the contract? If it's a really big contract, a 5% price swing might be tens of millions of dollars. If it's a real small contract, maybe it doesn't matter. You certainly do need to take price into account, but you also want to be sure that the subcontractor was given all the information. I mean, certainly, at least in construction, make sure that you've got apples to apples quotes. That a sub has included all the same information as another sub. I know on large complex projects that can sometimes pose an issue that people quoted 5 out of 8 items and somebody else quoted 6 out of 8 or something. So it does require some work on the part of the prime, but just standing on price alone, if it's not a big difference, is probably not going to get you over the good faith efforts hump. But also make sure that you have talked to your potential subs and made sure that they understand everything there is to know about the project and have done their best to give you a solid bid or quote. Oh, no, go back.
Sorry.
There we go. Okay, no problem. I'll tell you when to go forward. Derek, any more questions?
Yeah, there's a few. Trying to give you a little break in between though.
No, that's okay.
You stated that you have to be located in the county to bid. Is that correct? I think that's a misunderstanding. I think you might
That
be
is
talking.
definitely a misunderstanding. No, you do not have to be located in Harris County to submit a bid to the county. And that's regardless of whether you're a minority-owned firm or any other type of firm. In order to be counted for goal credit towards the MWBE contract goal, you have to be certified by one of those agencies we've listed and either have a location in the market area or, as we were just discussing a minute ago, be able to demonstrate to DEEO satisfaction that you have tried to do business in the market by having obtained at least 3 contracts or subcontracts within the last 3 years.
All right. Another purchasing question, but I think we can clarify it. The question is, how are NIGP registration codes that they talked about bonfire translated into NAICS for eligibility for vendors? When my team receives the scope of work and cost estimates from each department, those come in NAICS codes. So the subject
right, and
county area, it's not at NIGP.
Right, and there is a crosswalk. We've actually had to build a custom crosswalk for Harris County for this, but that's a very perceptive question.
And I'll give you one more layup before we move on.
Okay.
Have a hub zone certification goal.
No, we do not have a hub zone certification goal. If by hub zone, you're referring to the program that is administered by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, and they set up hub zones that are based on employees and location. But no, we do not have a hub zone goal. Now, there may be a hub zone goal perhaps on a federally assisted project. But as I mentioned before, the county as a recipient of federal funds would be required to follow whatever program attaches to that particular funding source.
Okay.
All right, any more?
Yep.
All right, well, we'll keep going then for a little while till we get some more. Nope, go back one slide. I'll tell you when to go. Wanted to talk about post-award MWB compliance and mention the diversity management system that the county has, which is the B2G Now system. For those of you that do work for the city of Houston or TxDOT, and I believe the state is going to move to that system, or if you do work for the city of Austin or literally by now hundreds of other agencies, you should be reasonably familiar with the system. It manages contract records, dollar values, agreements, all sorts of information that the county needs to manage its program, as well as gather information for any future disparity study. It does assist with contract goal setting through the module for that project, for that purpose. And the DEO project manager is in charge of monitoring all the records in B2G. Contractors must timely report all your payments to subs, not just MWBE subs, all subs. And if you're familiar with the system, you know that eventually, if your subs don't confirm those payments, you're going to get a ping about an audit. So it's important for people to try to stay on top of that compliance. And there is extensive training available. The county has tutorials. There's a B2G Now online help. And now we should go to the next screen. Thank you, Rennie. So this is just a little snapshot of what that looks like. You can see down there core training for vendors, contract compliance reporting, and then introduction to the system. Up above is training for staff. And there are many people available to assist you with learning how to use the system or troubleshooting any issues that you may have. Next slide, please. So turning now to contract closeout and enforcement, at the end of the project, DEEO will perform a final evaluation of whether the goal was fully met. If the goal was not met, it will review the contractor's good faith efforts during the course of the project. And if good faith efforts were determined to not have been made, then the DEO will notify purchasing, the contractor, and the user department of that determination. In terms of enforcement, DEEO does have the authority to initiate an investigation, and any failure to comply with requirements may well be treated as a breach of contract, with, you see, possible contract remedies, including withholding of payments, suspension, termination, and maybe even suspension and debarment from doing work for Harris County. Next slide, please. So let me stop there because now I'm going to turn to a little bit different topic. Any more questions?
Yes, it's a perfect time to pop a couple of these in. Please confirm if these requirements for post-award monitoring are applicable for existing contracts or only for future contracts.
My understanding, and here's somebody from purchasing might want to jump in just in case. Oh, except I think they're not on. My understanding is whatever the terms were at the time the solicitation was issued is what controls. So the county has been setting goals on contracts for some months now. I think maybe going back even into, to the beginning of last summer or the end of the spring. So you will need to look at your contract documents and see what is required. Certainly anything going forward now is going to have these reporting requirements. I'm honestly not sure where the county is in terms of looking back. I know that there have been a lot of efforts to go back and fill in missing information. Not sure where they are with that. But if you have questions about your specific contract, I suggest that you contact DEO and your user department and make sure that you are in compliance with whatever you are required to do for your particular contract.
The program sounds very much like 49 CFR Part 26. Does it, that program?
It does. It does. Yeah. So good. I'm glad that you could figure that out. That, of course, is the gold standard program. As I said before, it has withstood every single legal challenge that has been filed since the regulations were first amended, back in 1999. So we did certainly use that as our basic template. So to the extent that you are familiar with Part 26, the program will feel very familiar to you.
Which leads into someone asked, what are CUF requirements for material suppliers?
Okay, good question. If you are a material supplier, you're going to have to, well, there are two types of material suppliers. You could be, on the one hand, a manufacturer and a regular dealer, and on the other hand, just a supplier. If you are a manufacturer and a regular dealer, you will either have to make the product or you will have to be in the business of selling it, warehousing it, etc. Suppliers, it's a little bit looser standard, and I would direct you to look at the provisions in Part 26 because we essentially adopted those wholesale. And if you have particular questions about your business, please don't hesitate to contact DEO, and they will be able to answer questions about the specifics of your business.
There are a couple of questions related to certification, but I think you have answered where to go to get certified. Those questions probably need to be directed to those entities. Certifying, so I don't know if we want to answer.
Well, no, I mean, we're not doing the certifications, and we certainly don't want to give out any wrong information possibly. So if you have questions about, let's say, getting certified as a disadvantaged business enterprise, do go to that certifying agency, whether it's TxDOT or City of Houston or whatever, and get the specifics from them.
All right, and I have two more before we can move on.
Okay.
Is there a way to make sure that companies end up actually using MWBEs or hubs that they contract to be a part of the bid?
Well, yes, and that is that extensive contract performance monitoring program and activities that I discussed a minute ago. DEO will be conducting desk reviews, site visits. Certainly, if you are a firm that was listed on the utilization plan and you have not heard from your prime or don't seem to be getting the work that you expected, and you've already done everything that you can to contact the prime contractor, then please do get in touch with DEO. They can't help you if they don't know. But certainly that type of monitoring is just critical because, as you sort of imply, people are sometimes listed on these plans but don't actually get the business.
Yep. And I think that rolls into someone asked if the DEO has any responsibility to mediate prime contractors and subcontractor disputes.
Well, certainly DEO will do what it can to assist and make sure that prime contractors are in fact in compliance with their utilization plan, their contracts, and the program. The county is not a mediator, but they will do their best to make sure that if people need some assistance sitting down and talking, making sure everybody understands what's required, they absolutely can do that.
Okay, I think you can move on.
Okay, all right. Well, this is turning to almost at the end. Program outreach and the efforts that will be made to provide educational opportunities for people are a very important part of the program. So DEO will be interfacing with minority-focused and small business groups, so minority contractors, women groups, Houston Contractors Association, and AGC of Texas, ACEC, all of those kinds of groups that are important to firms in their marketplace. They'll do presentations, they'll provide assistance and training, such as this webinar, and any detailed information you need about bidding and good faith efforts requirements. Certainly, DEO and the user departments and purchasing will be encouraging bidders to conduct outreach to MWBEs at pre-bid meetings and at any community or organization events. They'll be holding networking sessions, matchmaking sessions, they're called different things, for MWBEs and other bidders. And there will be technical assistance on how to comply with the program, how to do business with the county, and being able to provide referrals to firms for additional resources such as the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. My understanding is Houston Community College may have some programs that may be of use to firms. There's small business development centers. So the county folks can put you on the path to being able to access those supportive services. Next slide, please. So speaking of resources, and I think this is my last slide, here's how to get in contact with everybody. So there's DEO, there's their website, their general email, phone number, and here's some links that you might find useful. The diversity management system, the B2G Now system. Purchasing has some great information on their website about how to do business. There's tips, what's out currently, and what is expected in the near short and medium term that can assist firms to plan and to try to form teams as to what is useful. Is that my last slide, I think?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Can you put the last slide back up, please, Reedy?
Yes, I can. Just give me 1 second.
So before I ask the final few questions, I just kind of wanted to expound on the outreach and resources. So the first slide, the first link there is our website. Also, if you do a /vendor-diversity, it'll go straight to the vendor diversity topics where you can find the disparity study, the utilization report, the manual for our program so that you can know all the rules and read up on all the rules. We have also added most of those topics to the solicitation documents. So even if prime contractors or bidders don't review our program, they will have it in each bid and they will see the good faith efforts that they need to make, as well as CUFs and all the stuff that we cover here today. As I stated earlier, I was the first employee under vendor diversity. And so over the past 5 months, we have been hiring a team and building this program up. I'm currently looking out for a business development manager, the person who will lead the outreach efforts in our programs. In addition, I'm currently also meeting with all the local area programs because when it comes to outreach, one thing that our goal is to make sure we build the gold standard in some of the programs and things that we do, and not just duplicate what everyone else is doing. We will be partnering with other entities for certain things, and then we will create things for ourselves. So I saw a question in the chat specifically talking about bonding and finance mentoring. Once we finish our research in the amount of programs that are in the area that already do that, then we will then make a justification for whether we will create another one or if we will just partner with one of those and make it bigger and better while we focus on other areas. So the last question that I have is, will a prime working on a project with the MWBE program goal be required to have an experienced MWBE program coordinator on their team?
Well, I think it depends on the size of the project. You know, if you're talking about a $175 million project, then you probably would want that. But it's not a requirement. But I think you need to use your own good business judgment about whether or not you think that you would need that type of support in order to comply with the program based upon the size and complexity and timeline for the project.
I think that's all.
That it? So no more questions? Well, certainly you know how to find DEO and they know how to find me. So if anyone has any additional questions that you think of, we'd certainly like to hear from you. I guess I just close with, I thought I had done this slide, but apparently I didn't. Because with really just a couple of closing thoughts about tips. Certainly for MWBs, obviously it is go get on Bonfire, make sure you're certified, but also show up at the pre-bids, go and reach out to firms. Don't wait for prime bidders, if you primarily work as a sub, to come to you. Many times people say, well, I'm certified and nobody called me. Well, you're going to need to be proactive, especially in a market as competitive as that of the Harris County area. If you are an MBE, WBE that wants to act as a prime, certainly make yourself known to these departments. Several of them discussed how to get on their lists, which are separate from Bonfire. So you will need to do that. Do not expect that people are just going to somehow carry that all over for you, and get to go and get to know these people. If you are a bidder trying to meet a goal, I would urge you to start early. Don't wait until the last couple of days before the bid or proposal is due to go, oh yeah, right, we've got to go meet this goal. Especially if it's a project with any kind of complexity, you really need to start on that the minute you decide that you are interested in this particular contract opportunity. I'd also urge you to build your team if you haven't really done that already. If you know that you're going to want to work on Harris County opportunities, you know, basically what industry you're talking about, start reaching out to these certified firms before a solicitation comes out. Get to know them. I guess people are going to lunch again or whatever, but make relationships with them. Find out what their capabilities are and help them understand what you do so that you can be successful in putting together these teams. Ask questions if you're not sure about how this program works or the documents aren't clear. Ask questions. My fourth grade teacher told me that the only stupid question is the one you don't ask, and that has proven to be some really good life advice. So no question is too basic. Reach out to DEO and get definitive answers that you can rely on. And I think if you do all those things, that you'll be successful. So that's all I have for today.
Derek, if you turn your camera on, I could put you on for the closing comments.
It's on.
You're,
You don't see me?
no.
Oh, yeah, it's been on for a minute. I don't know. But thanks, Colette, for that overview of our program. I hope all of you found this event helpful. The DEO will continue our outreach and training efforts. Again, we will make this recording available to you all. And you can also contact us directly if you're needing any assistance in MWB activities. Thank you all and have a great day.
Thank you.